Monomoy Regional School Committee to order at 6:37. And the first item of business is the approval of the meeting minutes. Are there any corrections? Okay.
I move to approve the minutes from March 14th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Student representative?
So March marked yet another busy month, as always, for the students of Monomoy High School. February ended with a very special ceremony for a small group of Chinese learners. 5 students were inducted into the Chinese National Honor Society on February 25th. These students earned this distinction by demonstrating their dedication and passion to learning the Chinese language and culture. 3 members of the Harwich Historical Society, Albert Rainio, Brenda Collins, and Angie Chilaka, visited Mr. Houston and Mr. Bates' history classes. They shared their knowledge of Cape Verdean history and culture and led a discussion about what culture means and the importance of having one. On Friday, March 8th, 9 musicians set off early in the morning to participate in the Massachusetts Junior Southeast District Music Festival. The group included 6 vocalists and 3 instrumentalists in grades 8 and 9. The next day, members of the Animal Welfare Club had the opportunity to attend a live owl presentation. The presentation took place at the Harwich Community Center and was sponsored by the Harwich Conservation Trust. The following Monday, the spring sports season kicked off. The spring is the biggest sports season by far, with about 1 in 3 students participating in one of the many sports, including boys and girls track, boys and girls tennis, boys and girls lacrosse, girls golf, baseball, softball, and sailing. Monday, March 11th was also an exciting day as JOSM Hour started up again. Immediately, students started taking full advantage of the extra half hour built into their school day to make up tests and quizzes, receive extra help, eat lunch with friends, and participate in a wide variety of enrichment opportunities, including Tai Chi, geocaching, and jazz band. Wednesday, March 13th was an exciting night for the Monomoy Theater Company, as it was the opening night for their production of Newsies. The musical follows the story of Jack Kelly and his team of newsboys living in New York City in 1899. When the price of the papers they sell are increased, the boys form a union to strike against Joseph Pulitzer, the publisher of the New York World newspaper. It was inspired by the true story of the 1899 newsboy strike. The show ran every night from Wednesday to Saturday, with an afternoon matinee on Saturday. It was a culmination of many months of hard work, which was apparent to anyone in the audience. I myself was particularly impressed with the tap dancing performed by the whole cast. On March 14th, the Hoops for Heart tournament kicked off after school. The annual 3-on-3 basketball tournament raises money for the American Heart Association. Before the gameplay started, the brand new MRHS dance team wowed spectators with their first ever performance. Winter student athletes were recognized with a special ceremony on Sunday, March 17th for their achievements throughout the winter sports season. There was a lot to celebrate this year as 3 of our teams made state tournament play. Athletes were awarded Cape and Islands League All-Star and MVP distinctions, as well as academic awards for maintaining high levels of academic success during the sports season. On Tuesday, March 19th, Mr. Alexander's AP Government class traveled to the John F. Kennedy Museum in Hyannis, where they participated in a federal budget simulation. Students debated with each other, as well as other AP Government students from St. John Paul High School, about how to best spend the federal budget. 3 MRHS students, Jamie Buffington, Perry Como, and Julie Slade, were members of the Youth Council on the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board this year. 2 weeks ago, they prepared a presentation about youth e-cigarette consumption, which they gave to a panel of community members, including State Senator Julian Sear. 7 students had their artworks exhibited at the Cape-wide High School Student Art Exhibit, sponsored by the Cape Cod Art Center on Friday, March 22nd. A maximum of 10 students from each of the Cape's high school were selected by their art teachers to exhibit their work. The winners for Monomoy were Joseph Domingo, Maria Fidencio, and Laura Brown. Ms. Hoff and the peer leaders attended a leadership conference in Lexington, where they learned about leadership skills and worked with other students from across the state. In Mrs. Doyle's junior honors English class, they recently finished reading The Things They Carried and watching the film Apocalypse. They then created life-size posters of soldiers inspired by the novel and by the film. One half of the poster is a character from the novel and the other half is a character from the film. The posters also had to capture the characters' experiences in the Vietnam War. Mrs. Albus's Latin 2 classes are also working on projects, but theirs are about lighthouses. The students studied the Lighthouse of Alexandria in Egypt, which is one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, lighthouses in Greek and Roman mythology, and the first ancient Roman lighthouse. They then connected their studies to our motto, Ad Lucem, and the Monomoy Lighthouse. Finally, each student will choose one of the 15 lighthouses on Cape Cod to become an expert on and create a model of. Last but not least, the annual Pops concert is tonight at 7 o'clock. This year's theme is Broadway screen to stage, so all of the music will be from movies that were turned into Broadway musicals. The show will feature performances by the bands, choirs, and a number of soloists.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank
It's
you.
still
Thank
the
you.
best part of our meetings.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, if there's anyone that would like to make a public comment, you're welcome to do so. Okay, then that part is closed, and we will move on to recognitions. Dr. Carpenter?
I have a few here. First, blessings in the backpack. At Harwich Elementary School, identified students were stopping by the nurse's office on Fridays with their backpacks where Nurse Holly provides kid-friendly food, which involves lower no prep for the weekend. This no-cost program is made available to our school community through a partnership with the Anglican Church of Resurrection in Brewster. I'd like to thank the Art of Charity for their grant in the amount of $600 to purchase 4 microphones and stands in time for the Peter Pan performance at the middle school. Thank you to Mark T. Volke Insurance Agency for their donation of $212 and an additional $212 from an anonymous donor in the honor of a recent Chatham Elementary graduate, so that Chatham Elementary second grade students could visit the Orpheum Theater to see a movie connected with one of their reading pathways units. And then our very own Caroline Davik, who just left, was honored by the Cape Cod chapter of the Daughters of American Revolution with its 2019 Good Citizen Award. The Good Citizens Award and Scholarship Contest is intended to encourage and reward the qualities of good citizenship and recognizes and rewards individuals who possess the qualities of dependability, service, leadership, and patriotism in their homes, schools, and communities. The organization selects one student from each high school in Cape Cod to receive the award, so congratulations to Caroline. And then lastly, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts recently notified Harwich Elementary School and the town of Harwich that they were selected to receive a Safe Routes to School grant that will provide the infrastructure improvements surrounding the school, including adding or rebuilding sidewalks, making intersections safer, and increasing accessibility. This was a competitive grant. There were 50 applicants and only 14 towns and schools selected to receive this. The Safe Routes to School partners will also receive year-round pedestrian and bicycle safety education instruction, as well as engagement initiatives tailored to meet each school's health, safety, and environmental priorities. As a Safe Routes to School partner, Harwich Elementary will hold a summer safety fair on June 1st from 3 to 5, featuring a bike rodeo, bike safety information, water safety tips, and more. It'll be a free event that the community will be invited to attend.
Thank you. On to reports and discussions. The Westgate Foundation.
Good evening, I'm Michael Westgate. With me is Julie Dykins and Ann Westgate, also members of the committee. This year's award goes to 3 teachers and the psychologist at the Chatham Elementary School. They'll be going to Canada in November to participate in the new pedagogies for deep learning lab in Toronto and to visit exemplary schools in Ottawa and in Montreal, where they'll be interacting with teachers from Finland, New Zealand, and elsewhere around the world. The teachers, and 2 of them are here with us tonight, Megan Lampert and Elise Johnson-Dreyer, if you could just stand up. The two of them, plus Mia Callow and the school psychologist, Nicole Camp, will be the foregoing. The award that we're making is $5,000. It's the largest we've ever made. We were deeply impressed with the presentation that they made, and it's exactly the kind of cooperation and teamwork that we'd like to see in the schools. The expenses of the 4 people going is they're calling themselves a scouting party. They're part of a larger and ongoing effort at Chatham Elementary. All 4 principals were invited to indicate interest in the program this year, and it was the initiative taken by Dr. Rob Millen at Chatham Elementary that was the led to the selection of these teachers. You don't have to stay standing. NPDL, the New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, focuses on the 6 C's: character, education, citizenship, collaboration, communication, creativity, and critical thinking. It's the hope of the Westgate Committee, Dr. Millett, and the Scouting Party that the lessons learned by these teachers will be shared throughout the system. One previous award, we enabled a team of teachers from Harwich Elementary to go to the new school in St. Louis and to learn about using students' multiple intelligences, which a lot of us found interesting, and I think many teachers and parents did also. Not everybody learns the same way, obviously. Another went to a team of 2 teachers observing earth sciences in Hawaii. The day of their arrival, they had a trifecta. They had a tropical storm, they had an earthquake, and they had erupting lava. Exactly what they wanted. And the 7th grade students of one teacher subsequently taught the 3rd grade students of the other teacher, and what we thought was a very inspiring pairing. We've made a number of other grants over the last 35 years, a total of about $140,000, which is roughly equal to the principal in the amount of the fund which provides the bulk of the funding for these teachers. And we look forward to hearing of these teachers' work and of upcoming applications in the coming year.
Okay. Thank you so much for providing this opportunity for the teachers, staff. Wonderful.
It's a pleasure for us, too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Costa Rica trip?
So we had a presentation at the last meeting. We just
Oh.
deferred the vote until this meeting.
Okay, so, all right. Is there a motion?
I move to approve the Monomoy Regional School District Costa Rica trip for April 2020.
I would second that.
No? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And the Sole Source Science Retreat?
Is Walk the Water after this? It is? Okay. Hi, in consideration of my students that are here tonight, if it's possible and the school committee agrees, I would like to have them do their presentation first, Walk for Water, and then I'll follow with Sole Source Aquifer. Is that okay with all of you? Sure. Great. Well, it's my pleasure to have 2 students here with me tonight. I'm sure for anyone that's associated with the schools, these faces are very familiar. But these students are from our group, the Monomoy Middle School Megalodons, and the Megalodons are a leadership group. They meet on a monthly basis. They are self-selected because they already participate in a number of leadership committees at our school and clubs. So they're, for example, they're members of the National Junior Honor Society. They might be a member of Shark Tank Enterprises. They could be part of the Animal Rights Club or the Student Council, as well as the Human Rights Academy. So they're already, or Friends of Rachel, which is our bullying program that we have at the school. So these students go out above and beyond those initial commitments that they have in those clubs to meet on a monthly basis to provide community service and participate in leadership activities. So I should have introduced myself first. I'm Sherry Armstrong, and I help facilitate the Monomoy Megalodons, and I have with me tonight to talk about the proposal that more than 60 students came together to discuss what they would like to do for their community service project. This has been more than a year in planning, and it is called Walk for Water, and it is my pleasure to introduce to you Talia Tambolio Perez and Sally Watson.
Hi, I'm Talia Tambolio Perez,
And I'm Sally Watson.
and we are 7th graders at Monomoy Regional Middle School. We're here on behalf of the Megalodons, and we would like to talk to you about the Walk for Water.
Without clean and accessible water, children will have limited access to proper education. It also affects the number of crops that are produced and how safe they are to eat. In addition to that, people are not as healthy and as clean as they could be.
Should we watch the video?
No, because I think it'll take too long. They had this before.
Last year, during one of our Megalodon meetings, we discussed ways we could make our school community and the world a better place. Here at the middle school, in 6th grade, we read a story called A Long Walk to Water by Linda Sue Park.
The book is set in Africa, and it's inspired by true events. Nia, a young girl, has to walk all day and every day for unsanitary water. She can't go to school, and she faces many health problems due to exhaustion and hazardous water. The story made us realize how important water is and how there are bigger problems that don't lie within our community.
We came up with an idea to help the world for the better and do our own Walk for Water. For the Walk of Water, we would have students carry milk jugs that would be donated by businesses in the community or anybody willing to donate. And we would walk from Kroll Road to Oyster Pond.
The idea is to raise $30,000. We plan to achieve this goal by having every student sign a pledge sheet to donate a certain amount to this cause.
Each student would ask at least 10 people to donate $5, and our goal is for each student to get at least $50. And with that, we'll achieve around $30,000, and that would be for 3 sanitary stations.
We are working with the Water Project. They are a nonprofit organization that specializes in building sanitary stations in Africa and wells that need clean water. We are working with them to build the 3 sanitary stations in Kenya.
Each sanitary station includes rainwater harvesting systems, 6 latrines, 2 hand washing stations, and hygiene and sanitation education. Well, that would be all 3. We have 3, so each one is $10,000.
Since this is a community effort, we are going to place an announcement in the Cape Cod Chronicle asking for the 1-gallon milk jugs with caps. And we are going to fill them at Oyster Pond and get a truck to carry them back to the school.
The walk will take place on June 5th at 2 p.m. June 5th is World Environment Day, and it's also on a Wednesday. So, World Environment Day, WED.
Hey.
Nice.
We would like to thank you for your time, and we really hope we can make this happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hey,
Thank you.
good job.
Nice work.
They might want to ask you some
Is there any questions? Yes.
So the gallon jugs, do they have twisty tops or the pop-off tops?
No, they have a pop-off top and they secure back on.
Oh, these are specific ones?
Well, just the regular milk jugs,
Oh,
clean milk jugs,
Okay.
gallon milk jugs,
All right.
which each one weighs about 8 pounds, and which is the average amount of water that the children carry each day when they're making a run
and
for
to
water.
experience the distance they have to carry. That's nice.
It's a great idea.
Anyone else?
Yeah,
Tina?
I just wanted to thank you for this, because some of our high school students, my daughter included, and Scott's son, went to Tanzania, even though it's not Kenya, but they had a firsthand experience with the whole water scenario. So I appreciate what you're doing.
That
Yeah.
trip sounds awesome.
Yeah, it was very awesome from what I heard, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just to give you a few more logistics in regard to this, they put this together. We have had the water project Skype with us in November, where we had an hour-and-a-half presentation by Tess Frick from the water project. We selected the water project to work with us because of their proximity in New Hampshire, but also because of Portage Charity Navigator. Most of the proceeds that are donated go directly to the project, not to salaries or overhead for the water project. So we selected that. We also did a play on Have You Filled Your Bucket Today to create the pledge forms, and that's a book about doing something for others and having it come back to yourself. So this was the pledge form that the students designed. Do you have any other questions for me that I can answer in regard to this? And I was so glad they brought that up, WED, Wednesday. I didn't know that. So any other questions that I can answer for you in regard to this?
I just would like to say that, echoing what some other people have, the water crisis with the global warming and everything is a huge issue, and for our kids to be involved in some way that is really meaningful to them, not just reading about something, is fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the reasons why they chose, I should say this to you, they were very excited to build a well. And that was their initial idea, because the Long Walk for Water is all about building wells. But in our long meeting that we had in regard to the water project, they discovered that Kenya certainly has enough rainfall. The problem that they have is they can't collect the water. So by giving these collection stations and then also introducing the other aspect, they've learned that a lack of clean drinking water is directly related, and a lack of sanitation facilities, to health risks as well as poverty. That they put this together and they decided on the hand washing stations because they're built at schools, so of course they were naturally connected to that. But in addition to that, they're fewer moving parts, so they're not something that requires continuous uptake, so it's a better value for their dollars. So thank you.
Okay, transportation coordinator.
Number 3.
I didn't have them show you the little film because I didn't want to take up too much time. I'm also here to, oh, I'm so sorry, Julie. The students' plan is to put notification in the Chronicle asking for people to bring clean 1-gallon milk jugs to the school as soon as we have approval for this project. And then I am sure that the students will be asking friends, neighbors, and the community to donate any way they can. And each child, once they reach their $50 in pledges, will get their milk jug. And their idea is to decorate the milk jug with their names and then to hang them in the lobby at the middle school so we can have a visual of how much money we're collecting. Each jug will represent $50. So we're hoping that not only, if every student in the school, there's 460 students, if every student were to collect the $50, that's $23,000. And if we can have the community bring up, by contributing more than what the students collect, their goal is to reach the 30,000 and build the 3 stations. So, yes, Terry.
A couple of comments. A great idea. The other night, my wife and I watched a Netflix show called The Boy Who Moved the Wind.
Yes.
And I just thought of that. Maybe the kids in this project some afternoon would want to watch it.
That's a great
after school.
idea. I'm sure they would love
Very
that.
motivational and right on the money. And I should have asked earlier, if you know the names of those schools in Kenya?
We do not have
You
the
don't,
names of the
okay.
school yet because we haven't formally committed. We're just in the stage. As soon as we formally commit that we're moving ahead with the project, we'll have the names of the schools. And if you have one you'd like to suggest to us, we're happy to.
If you could get to me the names of those schools. I mentioned earlier, our daughter is in family and husband work in a school in Kenya the last 4 years, and they're outside of Nairobi. And they too have projects where they go out for a week and stay at the native schools. And I would be surprised if one of those projects would be known to our Courtney. So I could get a hold of her.
Absolutely. As soon as we know and we have approval to move ahead with the project, we'll be delighted to supply you with that information. So, I think our greatest concern is raising this amount of money and how the management of this money will be handled is our greatest concern. And we'll be willing to work with Katie Isernio in regard to that. If Katie's here, I'm sure her hair is already standing on end. Yes.
I had another question. I'm not sure if it's what Ms. Dykens may have been wanting to know, is if she could actually carry a jug.
I do not want to.
Okay. I want to make sure that if there are other people that want to.
No, I don't think we'll be actually asking other people to carry a jug, but what we will be asking is for the police and fire department to give us a safe passage as the students walk from the middle school to Oyster Pond to return the Oyster Pond water to its original place. The megalodons are going to fill the water jugs, and then we're hoping to have them brought back to the school, and then students will carry it back and ceremoniously pour it back into Oyster Pond at the completion of the walk, or possibly on each other, depending on how hot the day is. But our goal is to have people line the streets of Crowell Road and support them as they're walking. So we really hope that people will do that, and we will have some type of celebration at the school.
Great, thank you.
After. And now I'm here with you with yet another project. This is our 11th year of Soul Source Aquifer, our Science Writers Retreat. This year is a new beginning for us. We're trying something completely different. This year is being held May 31st, June 1st, and June 2nd. As I said, this is the 11th year of Soul Source Aquifer, and we're very proud of it. We now have more than 65 students enrolled for this year. Our very first year of the project, we had 17, and now we are up to more than 65. So we have students who are still turning in their essays. Students complete an essay, approximately 800 words, about a time they felt at home in nature. And once they submit that essay, it's evaluated, it's reviewed, it's personally responded to. We have never declined a student who submitted an essay, but I do personally respond to each student's writing and give them a letter of acceptance. Once they are in the program, their writing that they do on the retreat serves for their passage to continue to go to the retreat in the subsequent years. So this is just one of the photos from the past. We're very thankful. We have not received word yet if we are a recipient of a grant from Friends of Chatham Waterways, but we have been in the past, and we thank them profusely, because what it enables us to do is to give access to many students who would otherwise be unable to go. They really support us in terms of being able to give scholarships to students to attend this weekend. And these are just some of the photos. We have a little video, but I know you're pressed for time, so I'm not going to, you all had an opportunity to view this. These are just some of the teachers that participate in the retreat. They volunteer their time. No teacher is paid. The only paid employee that goes on the retreat with us is our school nurse, because they are facilitating any medications or any medical needs that students have that accompany us on the trip. But all of the other teachers donate their time to go. So our cell phone policy on the trip is there are no cell phones. There are no cell phones. And we are this year, instead of going to our usual spot, which has been Cape Cod Sea Camps, and we've had a lovely time with them, we're interested in exploring a different side of the Cape. So we're actually this year moving to Camp Wingate Kirkland, which is in Yarmouth Port. And we were really very impressed with the facilities there, particularly because they have indoor showers. So each cabin is equipped with indoor showers. Because we go typically at the first week in June, it's very cold to use the outdoor shower facilities that they have at Cape Cod Sea Camps. And there are also communal shower facilities, which has worked out great for us. But we're really ecstatic about the safety aspect of this in terms of the showers are inside the cabins, particularly because now we have such a large number of students that we're taking. So these are just some of the views of the camp. And this is just where it's located. It's on 79 White Rock Road in Yarmouth Port. They have 45 acres of conservation land with hiking and bike trails. And we also have a secluded and private sandy beach. So it's a pond there. And we always, both at Cape Cod Sea Camps, where we had the beautiful bay, and we also had a pool, every year we have a lifeguard that the camp supplies for us that we have. That's one of the people that would be paid to ensure the safety of our students. And then we are moving from the Audubon Center in Wellfleet, where we've explored many of their programs and they've all been fabulous, to the Long Pasture Wildlife Sanctuary in Comaquid. One of the things that we're excited about here is we have every possible environment that you can experience on Cape Cod there. We have marshes, we have wetlands, we have freshwater, brackish water, ocean water. So we're really interested. Our students also will be learning how to do data collection, because that's something that Friends of Chatham Waterways really wants them to be able to understand how to do, and how to test water samples and how to compare and contrast data. So that's one of the pieces we'll be covering there. We'll also be working with horseshoe crabs and tagging horseshoe crabs, and we'll be spending about 2 hours out on the flats doing a variety of activities, particularly some right on the beach that deal with erosion and the shifting sands of Cape Cod. And that has a really nice writing piece that's attached to it about how is your personal life like the shifting sands of Cape Cod. So it really ties itself into a beautiful writing prompt. So, and then we are also visiting on Friday night. We've always gone to the Crosby Mansion, has been one of the pieces that we've done in the past 10 years. Now we're moving to the Widow Pirate Museum, because we always have for a prompt a ghost story. So in addition to visiting the Widow Pirate Museum, where they'll be showing our students how debris is removed from objects that they collect from the pirate ship, they're actually going to be able to see the scientific process for removing anything that has been growing on the debris that is brought up, and how they preserve it and keep it safe while they're taking off anything that is covering those, any material that's covering those objects. So they'll be seeing that. And then they'll also, when we're returning to camp, while they're doing Make Your Own Sundays, they'll be hearing the story of Sam Bellamy and Goody Hallett, which is a great ghost story. These are our rules that we have. We have the cabin assignments, we have our meals, we have snacks and water bottles, responsibilities, behavior expectations, and emergencies. These are things that we'll be going over with the students. When we arrive, we typically arrive on a Friday afternoon. Teachers, as soon as they're able to leave from the school, go right to the camp, and we expect students to arrive by 3:45. Because of the change in time now, it's more likely that they'll be there, and also the location closer to 4 o'clock. But we basically have the students check in. We have parents and students check in with the nurse. We drop them off, and then we get started right away with team building activities. So students go right away for team building because they are from grades 5, 6, and 7, so they all have an opportunity to get to know each other. And so that's our first step. That will be followed by dinner. Then we'll be leaving for the Widow Pirate Museum, have the museum tour, return to camp, and as I told you, we're doing our Make Your Own Sundays and a ghost story, and then we're having cabin time and lights out. Our day on Saturday, we muster in the morning at 7 a.m., go over the writing expectations for the day as well as the behavior expectations, have breakfast, a writing prompt, swimming, lunch, then we board the bus to Long Pasture Wildlife Sanctuary. We have 4 Audubon scientists that will be working with the students this year on a variety of science activities, and they will also have time for reflection and writing. And then we board the bus back to camp. We have dinner, followed by the campfire games, sing-alongs and s'mores, cabin time, and then lights out. And then in the morning on June 2nd, when they are all very tired, we will attempt to muster at 7 a.m. And then we do our cabin cleaning. We have always tried to leave every place we've ever stayed better than we found it. We have breakfast. They polish their writing. At 10 o'clock, the parents come to pick them up. And then the families are escorted to the presentation area, and every student presents their writing that they did over the weekend. They select one piece of writing to share. And then we all go home and hope we get some sleep for the remainder of the weekend. So it's just some other things, information that I just included for you, but I will show you this one video only because it's great press for Friends of Chatham Waterways, and it's only short. Oh, but maybe it has no sound. Oh, nope, now I muted it. That's not good. Well, you can watch it at home on your own computer. And Friends of Chatham Waterways, we really love you and appreciate you. I'm sorry we can't show this with sound. Do you have any questions for me that I can answer?
Are there any?
Oh.
comments, questions?
My only comment is that I'm glad the program's still going. I happen to have a grandchild that was in this for 3 years, and it was a wonderful program, great experience, so I'm glad it's still continuing.
Any other questions I can answer for you?
Do you need this approved anytime soon? Like to the
Well,
next meeting?
Yes, the next meeting would be lovely to have both of these projects approved. I hope you can do that, and I'm certainly willing to work with you, Katie, and work out logistics to see how we can make that happen. And both of us remain living by the edge of it. But this is its 11th year. We take every safeguard and precaution that we can, and we've never had any incidences, and I continue to expect that we won't have any in the future.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, now the transportation coordinator job.
So in your packet is just the transportation coordinator job description that we talked about last school committee meeting. We just need to have a vote to ideally accept it. And this is just to emphasize we're not adding any staffing for a transportation coordinator. We actually, as part of the FY20 budget, had a half-time reduction in staffing at central office out of the general fund aspect that we've now shifted, and we'll be having half of a salary paid for out of the transportation monies, so that we'll have one person in central office that will be the go-to person that families will call with questions about bus stops and bus incidences and you name it as we go into the next school year.
I move to approve the transportation coordinator job description as presented at our March 14, 2019 school committee meeting.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Awarding of the Howard Elementary School Playground Design Concepts. Katie's here. Okay.
Katie Isernio, Business Manager. At our last school committee meeting, Dr. Millen from Chatham Elementary School and Mary Oldak from Howard Elementary School came and did a presentation about the playgrounds. And in your packets at the last meeting, we provided you with information on the Develis Design Inc., who's the design firm that we are looking to award a contract to come out and take a look and review the site and make some plans going forward for this multi-year. I'm sure it's going to take a long time to get it all together, but we had a request for quotes, and we received 3 quotes, and the lowest responsive and responsible quote was Develis Design Inc. I checked the references. They did some work here on the Cape, and everybody was very positive in their reviews. So I am recommending to you to please award the contract for the design services for the HES playground and recreation space to Develis Design Inc. Be happy to answer any questions if there are any. There's some pictures and stuff in your packets.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I'd like to move to award the contract to Develis Design Inc. for the design Develis Design Inc. for design services. Why is that a mouthful? For the HES playground and recreational space contract in the amount of $24,975.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hourly substitute rates?
It's me again.
Oh.
Boo.
Who's up first?
Who are you again?
Katie Isernio, Business Manager. So I provided some background information. We currently only have full-day and half-day substitute rates for all of our substitutes except for custodians. And there are some positions that are not full and half days. So we need hourly rates for substitutes for teaching assistants, cafeteria workers, the van monitors, and our substitute nurse, because not everybody works a 1.0 job, and 0.5 of a 0.8 is not really a half day, so we don't have these hourly rates. So I'm putting forth a recommendation to have a substitute teacher hourly rate of $12.14. What that is just the daily rate divided by the number of hours. At this point, we're not looking to increase the daily rates. I think that'll come maybe at the beginning of next year. We have a substitute instructional assistant, cafeteria, van drivers, van monitors, substitutes of $12 an hour, a substitute nurse of $21.43. So I provided this information for you. We can approve it next time, but there's just a need for an hourly rate, not just a half and a full day. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Pretty straightforward.
I see that full day is defined as 6.5 to 7 hours. What is half day defined as?
Depending on the position. So it can vary, because 6.5 for the teaching assistants, 7 for the teachers. Custodians are 8 hours. Cafeteria, a full day is anywhere from 5 to 6 hours. So that's why the need for the hourly rate.
And the other question I have is, do we expect that we're going to have any difficulties getting people to work for 2 hours or something?
No, but what's happening is we have people now that are working for just, say, 2 hours, but we only have a half-day rate. So we want to be able to pay for the number of hours worked.
So
thank you.
The need is the saving of money.
It's a saving of money, and it's just making it better reflect the actual number of hours worked.
And you're thinking that this isn't going to have a negative effect on acquiring substitutes?
I do not, and these are really, this is kind of a setting for exceptions, and it impacts just a couple of people every year, but every time it comes up, we have to have a conversation, so it's long overdue to have this rate, an hourly rate.
Thank you.
We'll still pay the daily rate. It's only for the exceptions if somebody's filling in for somebody who doesn't work a 1.0 and somebody's only coming in for a portion of it. So it's really just for those exceptions. It's not going to be our practice. Our subs are going to still be getting paid a daily rate or a half day. So it's just for some anomalies that come along.
Okay, any other?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Budget?
So in your packets, there is essentially it's the budget presentation that we gave at our last school committee meeting. It was voted because I grew up in an age of pop-up videos. I went and annotated that presentation with nice little gold pop-up video comments, throughout. We've posted this on the website. We gave this to the Harwich Selectmen and sent it to Chatham as well, just to give them background information for when we went to visit them this past Monday. So there are a couple slides in it that we added to give it more context, but also to be cognizant of some questions that we had been asked by the selectmen in the past. One of the slides, which is slide 9, gets at comparative administrative staffing. There was a question that had come from the Harwich Selectmen just on what the Monomoy administrative staffing looked like relative to other school districts, and I think the insinuation that had been coming was that they were questioning if we were overstaffed at the high school with administrators. So, so we kind of put together an overview of everybody from Sturgis to Mashpee to Nauset and DY, and what's our staffing, administrative staffing at the high school look like relative to other schools. And what I tried to emphasize on the slide and also in the conversation with the selectmen is that there are two key roles that your staff, your administrative staffing has within a school building. The first is oversight of the students and working with the students and their families, but you also have this whole teacher evaluation piece, and there are different schools will do it differently. You'll have some school systems like Barnstable that has specific coordinators that they're full-time administrators who just evaluate one specific content area, or you'll have situations like at Sturgis where you'll have a series of people that are largely teachers that are released for a fraction of their responsibilities to do some evaluation, to situations like at Monomoy where the only evaluations that actually happen from the principals and assistant principals that we have in our buildings. So you had so we just tried to kind of emphasize that that our staffing really is right in the median of what's happening out there for for the different school districts, and also did in the last column just an overview of at central office. If you look at Mashpee Public Schools, Mashpee Public is almost identical in size to Monomoy. Mashpee Public has an assistant superintendent. We don't, and I think in many ways, if you go to a larger school district, you may have multiple different assistant superintendents. If you're at Barnstable, you have an assistant superintendent that's specifically for social emotional learning. You go to other school districts and you'll have an assistant superintendent who is your CFO, your chief financial officer, your business manager. And I think in many ways, the team that we have between Mark, Melissa, and Katie, they all have different roles that they're filling in, that they step up, and I think we're small enough, don't need that assistant superintendent. But you see, again, I think we're quite lean when it comes to administration, and I just wanted to kind of clarify that to the selectmen when we were talking. The other thing that we've done in this is really looked at just what our reserves look like relative to Chatham's reserves and Harwich's reserves, and I think it's something that we have to think about as a regional school district as we move forward. I'm a little concerned that we're starting to fall a little bit behind our partners when it comes to OPEB participation, and I think a challenge is OPEB stands for Outstanding Post-Employment Benefits, and the challenge we have is our revenues to run this school district largely come from our two towns. So and a lot of times you'll have conversations that will happen at the table on, will one town go and borrow to fund OPEB? Will they dedicate some new revenue stream coming in to earmark for these outstanding post-employment benefits? For us, we have to build it into our budgets, and in both of the towns, there was I think if we look at Harwich, Monomoy and Harwich, when it came to OPEB, started funding it at the same time, and now we have our OPEB balance. We put socked away $480,000 towards OPEB. Harwich based on where their budget message is at 1.7 million. Now granted, their OPEB liability is almost double what ours is, but our OPEB monies that we have set aside are not half of what Harwich's are. So I'm a little concerned that, maybe when we start going into future budget seasons, do we need to put more money aside to keep pace relative to our two partners, where our OPEB funding is relative to theirs. So again, with Chatham, Chatham's OPEB liabilities, 17.2 million, but they've put, over twice as much money towards OPEB as we have. So things to consider as we look forward. Good news is it seemed that our budget conversations were well received in Harwich, at least from my takeaway, and I tried to at least start the conversation with just acknowledging what our big challenges were budgetarily as we were putting this together. One of the big ones is there's $432,000 of out-of-district expenses that didn't exist last year that we're hitting in FY20. This is unavoidable. We have to absorb that in our budget. And then we had this big challenge with just enrollments. The foundation enrollment in Harwich is up. The foundation enrollment in Chatham is down. When you have your enrollment goes up in one district and your enrollment goes down in the other, the state adjusts your what's called minimum required contribution, so that Harwich had $670,000 of additional minimum required contribution that they needed to provide. And so I was just started my presentation by saying, if you take that $432,000, that's $670,000, that was $1.1 million of budgetary challenge that we had to find some way to absorb and make at the end of the day come up with an assessment that would be within Harwich's means. And what I say by Harwich, knowing that Chatham's part of this, but because Chatham's minimum required contribution went down, whatever happens with Chatham was ending up being a negative, essentially a negative assessment. So we, so I just sort of shared that, that at the end of the day, the bottom line assessment increase for Harwich was a 4.04% assessment increase, but the budgetary increase is really just a 2.6% budget increase, which I think relative to the town of Harwich and relative to most departments within the town of Harwich is a extremely reasonable budget ask. So it did seem that we got a couple thank yous at the table, so that's nice, and I keep my fingers crossed that they'll vote to accept and support this, and hopefully the Harwich Finance Committee will vote to accept our budget, and we'll hear from Chatham and go into town meeting and hopefully breathe a deep sigh of relief, and we can enjoy the heading into, or we can enjoy the rest of FY20 until, July 1st, when suddenly we start launching into conversations about FY21. That's it for me.
Thank you.
I don't know if people have any questions about what was in either the packet or the conversations that folks have had in the towns, but I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, Policy Subcommittee.
All right, so in your packet, you'll find two policies that have been modified. One of them is IHB, Special Instruction Programs and Accommodations. these are programs for children with disabilities. And as in all the others, the red, the black crossed out is what was there. And we're proposing to eliminate, and the red is what we're proposing to adjust it to. And the same thing for file IJ, instructional materials. So if you would read this, we'll be voting on it next time.
Any questions, comments?
If you have questions, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if, because it just says it's a subcommittee report and if they're not listed as first readings, if they can be considered first readings.
Okay.
Because they're not
Good
listed.
point.
I don't know.
I think they've always have been listed.
Yeah, because that way it's not listed as a discussion of what they actually are.
I'm not sure I'm following you, Nancy.
So it just says under subcommittee reports, policy subcommittee, which means there would be a policy subcommittee update.
Oh, I see.
So
I
they're
see.
not being,
It's-
there's nothing listed as a presentation
Okay.
as a first reading.
Okay.
So I don't know.
In this, when it comes out, it has to say first reading of file.
Policy
IHB,
IHB, and then
right,
the
right.
listing of it, I think.
Yes.
I don't know. I
Okay.
just,
So my question then is this, can this wait, Melissa, for us to do next?
The problem is because we're in our coordinated program review, they have to be uploaded by May 1st, as they're an indicator that they're discussing us on. So I'm just trying to think of the dates.
we should, I think we have 2 meetings in April.
We have 2 in April.
So, is that okay?
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nancy.
I don't know if I should ask this question now or wait till your first reading.
No, go ahead.
It's with the instructional materials. So as I read through it, it certainly is done well and with a lot of thought, and I appreciate that. My concern was there's no adoption form or there's no documentation that anybody's read through these materials or worked with these materials, so that, let's see, how do I say this diplomatically?
So, but this is right here is a policy. Are you talking about a procedural thing that needs to be done in the buildings?
Is that what, yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about.
So what we're trying to do is, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Melissa, but we're trying to make policies that would be good for the district. And then building per building, the administrators, along with Melissa in this case, would need to develop a procedure for, like, that's an excellent point.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. That's it.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, superintendent's report.
Just a little update on a sort of web posting that I put out to families yesterday that sort of is sort of a continuation of something that happened last Friday. But I think to put it into context, last Friday afternoon, I got a phone call from Bill Burkhead, the principal of high school, that they had just finished up investigating a threat that a student had made on social media, and that the police were involved in it. And when something like this typically happens, if I recall correctly, I probably was texting Donna and Jackie. I probably should have pulled over at the time, but I was transcribing, voice transcribing it. So Lord only knows what the text actually ended up looking like on the other side. But I reached out to the chair and vice chair, and then as the evening was progressing, was working with Bill on putting something out to families, because as this transpired on police end, ultimately, the decision was made to charge the student, and the student was arrested. I think, and I fully understand, where a number of, parents and different community members were coming from. It's like, everybody wants details. And, one of the things I wanted to stress is that we find ourselves as schools in this delicate balance, because, there are people that want details, and we also have to keep in mind that, that we have a child who is a minor who has their own rights. And it was nice. I got this one email from a parent today that was sweet, and said, it made me realize, that that this is somebody's child too. And so I think a lot of the times you want to be able to go and provide that transparency, but you also need to go and be sensitive to to the student who clearly made a terrible mistake, and hopefully treat this as an educational thing. At the end of the day, that the mistake doesn't happen in the future. I think the big silver lining in this as well, and that I greatly appreciate, is that students came to adults and said, hey, we're concerned about something. Came to adults in the school, including coming to to Tommy Clark, our school resource officer. So we had, it was, there were students who didn't want to talk to the administrators. The other administrators were talking to them. They didn't want to talk to the administrators, but they were comfortable talking to Tommy. And I think that really speaks to the relationship that a school resource officer sometimes can have with kids that an administrator can't have. So this morning I was having a great conversation with Bill Massey, who's the school resource officer for the Chatham Elementary and Middle School, and I know that Bill has that same sort of connection with kids that Tommy has. So so I think there's we sort of emphasize with students, if you see something, say something, and you hope that they'll have adults that they're connected to in their lives that they can turn to, who can help help address the problem. And in this case, that piece really worked effectively. So there's the student will have his day in court, so to speak, and he'll have his day in court when it comes to a conversation with the principal and consequences that come out of that. And I know that the school works with the police. They also work with the district attorney to make sure that whatever outcome happens is something that is in the child's best interest, but also trying to make sure that at the end of the day that everybody here in this building is safe too.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that, if I'm in the right place on the agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7:41. She, I think
Is there more stuff? Did we get all of our signing? Is that it?
I better look at that.
Joy's nice article in the Chronicle. Busy.